I am resident of Collinwood. I am going on 3 hours of sleep. That's my buddy Alan Gallant. That's my buddy Patrick McCray. We're here to review the 1957 movie 12 Angry Men, starring Henry Fonda, a movie that old Hank Fonda had put his own money into, and it's the only film he ever did. Put his own money into, and every person cast in this film is who he wanted cast, which is great cast. Lee J. Cobb's there, Jack Hartman.
These are a bunch of nobodies I never heard of and never did a thing again. I don't know. They couldn't get a job.
No. John Fiedler, he definitely did something again. He was on Star Trek.
Well, he did all that stuff for the Mitchell brothers.
That's right.
In the early 70s.
Oh yeah, that was when that was all that scat porn and stuff. Yeah.
Oh no, you just accused John Fiedler doing scat.
Oh my god!
I mean the vocal jazz improvisation scat, I believe.
Okay, we'll say that's what it was.
Patrick, what was the first Henry Fonda movie you ever watched? I asked this about
The Swarm. The Swarm.
The Swarm. Okay.
Starring Henry Fonda as a scientist.
Cool.
Yes.
When did you first see 12 Angry Men?
Earlier this evening.
Nice.
I never seen the film before.
What did you think?
It would have been better in 3D. I think it should have been one of those Jack Arnold 3D things. I read the script, and it's good. It is one of those stories that makes me very sad because of the social events that it's talking about and the social milieu that's taking place in, and the fact that they had to speak in code, sort of.
Yes.
Kind of.
And I wonder if I think it's still necessary. I think, talking about things like this is still necessary. It's just that now the groups, I think, are largely volitional rather than ethnic, unless, of course, you're talking about, Latin Americans, who fly here legally. Right.
They don't come in over the bridge. None of that. Right. It makes me mad.
I know that's part of the political climate, but of course that comes from a social and institutional climate that rears its ugly head every so often and never has completely gone away. And that's I've seen recent articles talking about why 12 Angry Men is still, viable today in terms of what it talks about, what it wrestles with.
Is it its universality?
Yeah, I think it's its human condition.
Well, we just use fancy phrases, and they kind of mean the same thing.
Well, bigotry, racism, stereotype, which of course falls under those categories quite frequently anyway. Human psychology, which of course back in the 50s was starting to become really a huge part of films in terms of therapeutic psychology and all of that sort of thing, because people were starting to experience that on a wider level in the 50s and 60s. So you get like Lee J. Cobb's character, who has been obviously scarred by his relationship with his son and all of this other thing that he refers to obliquely a couple of times. And it's completely colored his anger at this kid.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing too. This movie does get into, you have E.G. Marsh, the one guy, I'm trying to think of his name, playing like a racist character to a degree in this film, where he's like, how they are.
Is it Lee J. Cobb?
That's Lee J. Cobb.
Yeah. And it's like,
and there's somebody else that kind of does that in a couple of places too.
Yeah, that's the other guy I'm talking about. He stands up and everybody turns their back to him, including Lee J. Cobb's character, and it's like you could tell the guy's being very racial, and they're like, no. And the one I love what he goes, I have been listening to you. Sit down and shut up.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, too, all of these guys are sort of will tolerate a sort of low level stereotyping.
Yeah.
They all, but he gets so worked up about it that it revolts them. So that there's that's going on in that particular scenario.
Yeah.
Which is something nowadays you film it, they wouldn't all necessarily be tolerant of a low level. They'd either be one way or the other, because that's the way that we are culturally and politically aligned right now, or at least that's the way that certain forces would have us aligned.
Yeah.
But back then, there were gradations of this, and people recognized them.
Well, they wore a suit and tie to jury duty, which meant that they could not be guilty of casual racism.
No,
because they weren't dressed casually.
Had to be formal.
Yeah. When did you first see this movie, Alan?
Boy, oh boy. Yeah, I couldn't have been more than 14 or 15 years old when I saw this movie. So back in the mid 70s.
Cool. I saw this movie as a teenager myself. I saw it on TCM. Getting a great movie. I believe it was part of Summer Under the Stars, and the star of the month was Henry Fonda one time. So it was a bunch of his movies. Did
they show The Swarm?
No, but they did. No.
Gloria Swanson, damn it.
They did show a movie I think is really underrated called Welcome to Hard Times, which is a Western with Henry Fonda. But with this movie, it is really good. I love the chemistry of the cast. They obviously Fonda being at first the lone juror, and he's the guy who, again, he's still a babyface at this point. He hasn't played the villainous Frank, so this is prior to Once Upon a Time in the West.
Few years.
Yeah, definitely. He gets to be this white meat baby face, and he goes over really easily.
And the thing is he's really subtle too, because he's a thoughtful character, and he's a quiet man. Yeah. He's not terribly wound up, or he's not being an activist about anything. He just wants to know. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, he takes that phrase seriously.
Yeah, what Fonda does so well here, he takes his character in tones. He starts off real quiet and soft spoken, and then he picks up momentum when he wants to push the issue.
Yeah,
and it's really well done by him.
Yeah, because he never has to really raise his voice, even when he gets intense.
Yeah,
you've kind of he's made those subtle changes, and as an audience member, you accept that, and the contrast is enough that he doesn't have to be screaming and hollering. And it's not the kind of character that would do that anyway. It would render the character ineffectual, because he would be trying to match Lee J. Cobb's character. That's his sort of level. But the great thing about this movie is this, as you said, this is really the only movie in which Henry Fonda, felt so strongly about it that he wanted control of it, so he put a bunch of his own money into it.
Yeah, it flopped, unfortunately.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is the first and only movie he puts money into. It flops, but it went on to later on.
Oh, it's huge now. It's
huge acclaim.
It's one of the top. It's now considered one of the top American films of all time, actually.
Yeah. Why do you think that happens to movies like this or other movies that, for example, there's Sean Carpenter's The Thing. It didn't get well received either from certain. Why do you guys think that is? Do you think it's just timing or audiences being
the most interesting part about that to me, Joel, is when one of the reasons that these movies sort of become sleepers and attract an audience later, but one of the reasons they have to is that they don't get very good reviews when they come out. There are not enough good reviews. And I always wonder what's wrong with critics en masse that they almost all seem to miss the boat on these things. It's a really weird phenomenon. I can get audiences not quite being ready for it, not having cultural literacy. Sometimes the culture has to catch up. The zeitgeist has to catch up. But critics, I expect more from.
Yeah, you expect a little bit more sort of turning over or reflectiveness because of their supposed experience.
And yet they praise these Ron Howard bland pieces of crap as masterpieces that nobody. Who the hell talks about Seabiscuit now? No one.
No one.
Who talks about one of the many Russell Crowe 1930s boxing movies,
right,
that they kept making with Paul Giamatti in the corner? Now, no one. I can't even. Cinderella Man. Who talks about No one.
Nobody. However,
that's why I hate the Oscars. I think the Oscars should be conducted 10 years later.
I think they should be banned for 10 years, actually, after the more recent displays of spinelessness by the Academy and the actors who witnessed some pretty awful stuff.
I can't tell you a movie that's won that. I guess Parasite. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
But really, other than that, I am so detached from that.
Well,
and part of it's the curse of the 10 movies.
I'm cynical about that too. I mean, the shine is off, social justice and social awareness and all of that, because it's a cynical move by the Academy to do these things. They wait until they absolutely have to do it, and then they promote it like it's a film itself. So it's weird. But you're right. I don't think. I think critics fall to the same fall prey. In some cases, you wouldn't think they would, but I think they do. As a general audience, and is that they're just they want an easily digestible products, just like everybody else. And
yet somehow challenging,
right,
at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it becomes predictably challenging.
Something that they can pontificate as challenging, at least, but not necessarily challenging to them. And things like bigotry, racism, that stuff, I can almost guarantee you, in this case, the critics fell prey to that too. This was the 1950s we're talking about.
Yeah. It was Ed Begley who played the racist juror in this movie.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. Martin Balsam he plays the foreman.
Balsam.
Yeah, he plays the foreman. Really good job.
Now, Martin Balsam originally recorded the lines of Hal in 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Really?
And Kubrick replaced him.
I didn't think he was mechanical enough, or
I don't know. I don't know the reason. Kubrick was a weird guy.
Well, he
obviously.
He was.
So why he thought Martin Balsam just wasn't up to the task, I don't know. I think Martin Balsam sounded authentically reasonable rather than synthetically reasonable. And
that's probably it.
Managed to be synthetically reasonable.
Yeah.
I would love to see, even though I have seen Mercedes McCambridge in movies, her most famous part she's done seen as the devil in The Exorcist.
Right.
And I would love to see a production of Love Letters by Douglas Rain and Mercedes McCambridge. Just their voices.
Dear John.
John Fiedler, Lee J. Cobb, obviously. E.G. Marshall is in this as well. Jack Klugman.
Great cast.
Edward Binns. Jack Warden. Henry Fonda, obviously. Joseph Sweeney, who plays the old man. Ed Begley. George Voskovic. And Robert Webber is in this.
Robert Webber went on to do a ton of TV in the 70s. What's that? Sorry?
Is John Gavin one of these guys? Was he in this?
I don't think so.
Okay, there's a guy who looked like John Gavin. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's Webber.
Could be.
Yeah, I think it is. Weber ended up doing a lot of television work playing smarmy guys on TV
You know,
in the 60s and 70s.
his best part is in SOB, and he spends half of that as a corpse. And he's magnificent.
Oh my God.
Jewel, have you ever seen SOB?
Oh my God.
No.
It's one of Blake Edwards' best movies. It's
Awesome.
incredible.
And it was universally trashed at the time. I mean,
and still critics are a little afraid to get too close to it.
mhm.
And that's a shame. That's one of those movies that has yet to get its critical reassessment, and I
Right.
don't know if it ever will.
Well, I mean, the critical reviews and, you know, People Magazine and all that stuff, it became all about the fact that Julie Andrews flashed her bosoms, you know. It just,
Well, that was a heavily advertised part of the movie,
it was.
and it's a big plot point within the movie. You know,
Mhm.
Yeah.
But the plot point wasn't discussed. Only the fact that she bared her breasts. I mean, that
That's
was
It's like, oh God.
crazy. It's a crazy world, Joel.
Yeah, it is. Everybody always makes a big deal about like some nudity in film. It's like,
Mhm.
get over it.
well, it was like earlier though. There was a big splash when Burt Young bared his breasts.
Yeah,
That
well,
was that was just as terrifying.
he goes, "Look, Rocco."
my God. Oh,
There's
my
C
God.
cups now.
It's really.
Oh, my God. Just, I really like how E.G. Marshall is the one who is making the most valid of the points against Fonda's character. They have a very good back and forth, especially at the end of this movie, but all throughout the movie. One of the early scenes is they're talking about the knife. How Fonda says, "Well, maybe the knife fell out of his pocket," and they bring the knife in for exhibit, and he goes, "You look at this knife." They said, "There's no other knife like it in the world," and they put it on the table, and he goes, "You don't think it's possible there could be a similar knife?" No. And Fonda just stands up, switch down, and they're like, "Where'd you get that?"
That's when you realize that they weren't totally sequestered.
Yeah.
Because he went out to some little side store somewhere and bought the darn thing.
Yeah.
What are you doing? I'm just bringing a knife to take to the jury room. That's all. Oh, okay. Take some nitroglycerin while you're at it.
You wouldn't be able to get away with that today, but in 57 they probably, you know, let me check what's inside your hat, and that was about the size of it. The thing I liked about E.G. Marshall's character was he was intellectually honest.
Yep.
He changed his mind when he was confronted with evidence.
Yeah. It's a great movie, just in praise of critical thinking,
mm-hmm.
and in praise of characters who generally recognize the value of critical
right as a component of ethical behavior. I mean, it does come down to ethics here. You know, even the guy who holds out the longest finally realizes that this is because, you know, his logic is beaten because his logic is about something completely different. Yeah. And he realizes it, and he breaks down and he says not guilty. So even he recognizes there's some ethical merit in admitting that he was wrong, even though he doesn't want to. He really doesn't want to.
Yeah, a lot of the other jurors, well, after Ed Begley's character is sort of like silenced a bit, a lot of the other jurors, besides E.J. Cobb, each of them has a certain point where they do switch because, okay, they hear a piece of evidence. Okay, now I have some reasonable doubt here. I'm not so sure now. You know what I mean? And that's what the slow momentum of each turn is really, really good. Because when they do the first initial reading of this movie, I watched this with my wife and she had never seen it. And she's like, is he really going to convince one person to change his mind? I said, just watch. And then when they're going through, and Martin's reaction standing up is so good. It's criminal. And he's like, not guilty. So we have another person who's convinced, and it's the old man.
Each one of the jurors, each one of the actors has their moment in this film. It is a very balanced script in terms of that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. And what's interesting about it too is the fact that they all take their time. They all make points too when they have a good point to make. I love the one guy with the glasses where who stands up for himself. I get his name. Let's see. John Fiedler's character.
Fiedler? Yeah,
Fiedler's character.
He's the one that notices the glasses, right?
No, that's
no.
John Fiedler's character is, I think he points out the door, the man going through the door.
Yeah.
Is what I think he points out. The person who let me get his name too. Joseph Sweeney's character is the one who notices the glasses. Because he goes, excuse me, he says to E.G. Marshall's character, he goes, why did you just rub your eyes? And E.G. Marshall explains to him, he goes, those two dents there, what are they? All those are from my glasses. And then they ask him, well, could they be made from anything else? And he's like, no.
Yeah, that's when he realizes he's honest about the evidence.
Yeah.
He doesn't hang on to his assurance.
Yeah, because the woman, though she did not wear glasses to the court, and I do like Lee J. Cobb's point character of, he goes, well, do you think they were being dishonest? Well, no, the woman was just going for vanity, like
she thought she saw what she saw, which is it's an underscoring of what is scientifically true. Eyewitness testimony is lousy.
Yeah,
especially if there's any time that has passed between the event and the testimony. People start to fill in gaps, and that's what the brain does. It's what it wants to do.
Yeah, there was that one kid in Florida, I forget his name now, but he was accused of murder due to eyewitness testimony, and they all but had him, like they were going to sentence him to like the death penalty, and he said, no, I'm innocent. I was at a Marlins baseball game. Well, there was footage of him at the game, and they found it.
Yeah, somebody else that looked similar to him.
Yeah, similar. Yeah, he was right there. You could clearly see it was him at the time of the murder, and it's like, well, you can't be at two places.
No.
But yeah, so you do
have this movie. The supreme test is beyond a shadow of a doubt. That's the supreme test of this film, and that's the supreme test of any case like this, and should be the supreme test of any case like this, especially a murder case, where and at this point in time, it was mandatory death sentence. So you're really talking about somebody's life. They're not going to have, they're not going to have a chance to spend 5 or 10 years trying to prove their innocence.
Yeah. Who was you guys' favorite character in this?
Henry Fonda.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously.
I like Jack Klugman, though.
Yeah, and I also liked, I enjoyed Jack, what the hell is his name? Warden. Jack Warden. I thought he was an everyman. He was a really good everyman character. He was also a guy that had some sort of ethical grounding in his own way, in a different experiential way than E.G. Marshall's character, but still, he did have some grounding. So
he wanted to get to that Yankees game.
He did, but he gave it up.
Yeah,
he did give it up after a while.
So, he's a bit the comedy relief in this a bit.
Well, yeah, he kind of like I say, he's the sort of the blue collar guy, the cigar chomping guy. But he's not a tough, acerbic guy. He tries to be, but he's not really that. He's just a regular guy.
Yeah, my favorite character in this is Henry Fonda too, obviously. But I'll tell you another character. I liked Martin's character a lot too, the foreman, because he shows such a range of emotion where he's trying to be reasonable. He's trying to keep everybody from arguing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I love his reaction to Fonda when his character when he first wants to make another point. He goes, "Pal, I don't care what you do, like what you say," because he's just annoyed at everybody, like arguing over this stuff. You know?
Well, they first start out. They figure it's going to take an hour. They're going to convict the guy. Now, a lot of them did feel that way anyway. All of them, except for him, did at first.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're going to have that. You're definitely going to have that irritation. It's like, let's get out of here. Wait a minute. This guy's going to get the chair. You know, it's that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I got a chair. I got a box seat at the game.
Seriously. And it makes the most sense, of course, that Fonda's character is going to be the one that's showcased, and you're going to feel it is a real driver in this movie because obviously he is, but also Fonda had a sense of the character. That's what drew him to the role in the first place. And again, his commitment to producing the film.
Yeah. I like the fact that before we get the jury room, we get the inside of the courtroom, which was a lot of fun to see in this movie. What did you guys think?
It opened the movie up.
Yeah. It allows the audience to see the sort of the weight of what's happening, and you see the kid's face.
Yeah.
Which is really impactful, I think.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. What's you guys' favorite scene in this movie, Patrick?
I don't know if I would break it down just into one favorite scene. I think it's kind of the relentless layering of logic that keeps developing over the film. It's a gestalt for me.
Yeah, once they're in the jury room, it's one long scene.
It's one big favorite scene.
Yeah.
The pace of this movie is my favorite scene because it's just so good. And it's every little thing you guys just said. It's like they start off real slow, then they go fast. Then it goes fast, but it doesn't go so fast you don't miss anything.
No.
Yeah, it goes. I mean, there are points of it where there's ennui and oh, it's hot in here, and all that. And then there are these other super excitement things going on. He's right about the knife, or whatever it happens to be. And then there's a certain amount of coalescing of focus and energy that happens, and that goes through several phases of that in different ways. It's really well constructed. The comings and goings of the energy in that script is it keeps your attention as a viewer, as an audience member.
I like how Jake Cobb's character, he goes, "I'm gonna kill you," and he's like, "I didn't really mean that." He baited me. He goes, "He did a good job baiting." E.G. Marshall.
Yeah.
Also not.
Another point proven.
Yeah.
Point proven.
Because they talk about, he said he was going to kill him at the top of his lungs. He goes, well, a lot of people say that. Doesn't mean they mean it.
Right.
Yep.
Oh my god. Is there anything you guys want to add about 12 Angry Men?
I'm glad it was done in black and white. I can't imagine it would have a lessened impact in color. I just think it's a black and white film. It needed to be in black and white.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Now you can watch. I believe that you can watch this in color somewhere, but I prefer it in black.
There's a 1997 version that's in color.
Yeah.
Different actors, of course.
I
don't prefer it to this, but I mean, it's not bad, but I do not prefer it to this.
Isn't Jack Lemmon in that one?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
And does a fine job.
Yeah.
But again, this is the mother lode for me, is this version.
I like somebody on a website or something had a fan theory that I found was just I laughed because it's like, well, wouldn't he argue it the other way if that were the case? They had said that Fonda's character was the real killer. I was like, well, wait, he's arguing for.
How did that happen?
Yeah, like, what? Oh my god, it was funny though.
Yeah.
So, what do you guys give the scale 1 to 10?
10.
That's a 10. It's a 12.
Yeah, seriously. It's the most 10 you can get without going to 20.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Is there a movie you guys want to do next, or when do you want to do a movie next?
SOB.
That would be fun. I don't
It's a
think
fun
that's
movie. It's a nice break from what we've
Yeah.
been doing. I think it'd be a nice change. And Joel, if you haven't seen it, you're gonna like it.
Mhm.
When do you guys want to do this? Tomorrow or when?
Let's skip a day. Let's try this.
Yeah,
Would it be okay to do it on Monday night? Would
Yeah,
that be
Monday.
okay?
Monday. Yeah.
Monday's good.
Okay.
Monday's good.
Yeah, and it's a good sort of follow up to Victor Victoria, because the movie he made right after. I think he made
Was.
right after Victor Victoria, right before, one or the other. Right before.
Yeah, it was there was a cluster anyway. Yeah, it was definitely same period. So yep, that'd be all right. I don't think I've seen SOB since it was new.
Oh, it really holds
I've
up.
probably forgotten half of the stuff, so it'll be fun.
It's got good Loretta Swit stuff in it.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'll give that a watch, and we'll talk this movie Monday. Guys, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Be safe. Links to Alan Gallant's YouTube channel is going to be in the description box. Links to Patrick McCray's Dark Shadows, They Book Unbound is going to be in the description box. I'm going to get off here, upload this, and go watch High Plains Drifter. You guys be cool.
Woohoo!
All right. Take care, Joel. Bye.